All right. All right, y'all. It's Phillip, 40 Watt Podcast, coming at you again. Episode, I think, lucky number 13. I think, unless I'm way off. So, got a really fun one here today. I've got, I'm gonna say my buddy, but we really just met, so that's totally awesome too. Though Shane from In the Blues, all the way from Australia. I've now turned into an international podcast. This is beautiful. Going to talk about some guitars. So Shane, you're a YouTuber, you're a musician, videographer. I know your videos are more in depth than a lot of guitar folks. I know video gear is a big deal to you. So introduce yourself, tell a little bit of your story, how you got into music, how you kind of transitioned into YouTube. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me first and foremost. And yeah, I'm glad I've branched you out into the world or to the global audience. That's super cool. So for me, when it came to music, I always loved it as a kid. I grew up listening to or watching the Blues Brothers and loving most of the music that was in that soundtrack, as well as many other soundtracks were my thing, more so than albums. For whatever reason, I used to watch a lot of movies. So I think the blues was kind of like imprinted on me at a really young age. And then years later, I sort of hurt my back and I couldn't walk for quite a while. So being into sport and all that kind of stuff, I was like, well, what else can I do? And I was heavily listening to Dire Straits and a lot of other guys at that time. And John Lee Hooker as well was another guy that I got from the Blues Brothers that I'd listened to. And I didn't know a lot of blues back then. And I needed something else to do. So I was like, I'm going to learn how to play electric guitar. Something about that whole sing a little bit, play a little bit thing always inspired me. And even though Knopfler wasn't blues, it was the same kind of concept, that call response thing. And that kind of got me into it. And when I was 19, I lived in Michigan for quite a while. And that's when I learned the formula. This guy, Rob, I met working at one of the summer camps up there in northern Michigan. He showed me how to play a blues in E. And I'm like, so this is always the same, like irrespective of the key change? And he's like, it is. But I still couldn't remember the patterns because I didn't have a lot of time to practice. Playing on an upside down right-handed guitar. And then I guess on the way back from going back to the airport, we had From the Cradle on from Eric Clapton. And that changed my life, that album. I was like, I want to learn that. I had no idea who it was until the guy in the car, my friend Kyle, told me who it was. I was like, that's Eric Clapton? It doesn't sound like him. Like I'd never heard him sing like that before. And the playing was so good and the phrasing. And it hit something emotionally where I'm like, as soon as I get home, that's what I'm going to start practicing. I'm just going to soak it all in and start buying albums and CDs back then and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how it all started. And I'm still doing it. I can't believe it. And I knew at the time, like, as you get older, you can't do the same athletic things you might have been able to do when you were younger. But music doesn't really have the same side effect to the same extent, at least anyway. So I was like, this could be something that I could enjoy for a long time. And 21 years later or whatever it is, I'm still doing it. So, yeah. And that album actually came out the year I was in Michigan, which was 1999. I didn't know that until a long time later. So, yeah.
So that actually puts you around my age. I just turned 40 in December. So,
yeah, I'm just older than you. Yeah.
So I feel that. It's really interesting. One, about how, an injury, not walking, is a little more severe than mine, but was what led you to guitar. Actually, I didn't start playing guitar until my senior year. You'd think growing up in Clarksdale, Mississippi, with the blues and the heritage, there's a long story as to why it wasn't at that time. It's different now, but at that point, that history wasn't really celebrated in Clarksdale, that blues history. And actually, John Lee Hooker's from Clarksdale.
There you go. Yeah.
From my hometown. So he's
Cool.
like, there's a John Lee Hooker lane that crosses Blues Alley in Clarksdale, Mississippi. I've tried to steal that street sign once, and someone had actually beat me to it and stolen it. So I didn't.
Yeah. Man.
But I I got to college my freshman year, and I enrolled in college really late because I thought I was going to go to college in Pennsylvania or Ohio. Those were some schools I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up, it didn't happen. It was just too expensive. I couldn't afford it, didn't get enough scholarship. And so I ended up enrolling in Mississippi. And I had planned, I had started making the arrangements to try out and join the football team at the school that I was going to. And I loved football growing up. I was way more into sports, baseball, basketball, football, whatever they let me play, I'd play it.
Yeah.
And I ended up shattering my ankle and was on crutches, steel plate, screws, the whole 9 yards, still in the ankle. Ended up playing guitar a lot more. And that was what ended up taking me down this crazy road, 20 some odd years later. So it's that really, I totally get it. And also From the Cradle, I'm going to be mildly controversial. That's easily Clapton's best solo record.
Oh, absolutely. His 90s playing, in my opinion, and his singing is the best. It was and that was done live as well, with the exception of the harmonica. So, that goes to show just how great that dude is, and his band was cooking.
Oh, yeah. I feel like after that, he started to get a little, I don't know, a little cheesy, a little adult contemporary in some of the stuff he did. I'm looking at you, Wonderful Tonight. But because
was that there's been some good stuff in the mix, but there's some strange choices as well. I think it's like any musician, you're going to go through, once you make your best album, it's hard to push forward. Like I see that with so many artists. It's the way it is, irrespective of how great they are on guitar or their capabilities. Once they get that definitive album, it's pretty tough to top.
And look at him. He did it so many times. At some point he was going to run out. I mean, he did, and with the Blues Breakers, the Beano album, he did it again with Derek and the Dominoes. I still feel like
it's great.
That's one of the greatest albums of all time. Then he did it with From the Cradle, and then he came out with that album they did with J.J. Cale.
Oh, it's Road to Escondido. Yeah, one of my favorites. So was JJ. JJ is one of my favorites. Most underrated muso out there, I reckon.
It was that album that got me into JJ Cale. I didn't know anything about him until that album. And then
I did a tribute to that guy. This album that sat on my hard drive for like 2 years. I need to mix it down. That's the last step. It's been sitting there after he passed away. I was like, I want to record some of these tunes. And JJ's like Eric Clapton. Actually, I'm pretty sure he said it. He goes, JJ has influenced as many people as Hendrix, whether you realize it or not. Like, there's guys like, Knopfler, Mayer, they've all got their inspiration from other guitar players as well, but JJ's a big part of that sound, it really is. And he's been everywhere.
Yeah. And so that album got me into it, but Clapton is one of those, I don't know, it's just one of those things that I know he's polarizing. I know some people at this point, it's like he reached his peak and then sort of fell a little bit. And now he's like of this next generation of guitarists. He's sort of their granddad's music or their dad's music. And, they're always going to rebel against it, but whatever.
I always just think people get mad at anything. So it is what it is.
They
just enjoy it.
they really get mad at anything. So I didn't realize you spent that much time in Michigan. I almost said Detroit, as if Detroit is all of Michigan. It's not. I know this. I've been there. But it's like how everybody thinks New York City is all of New York. So you spent time there, and that's when you learned the blues. Started to learn the form, and that was when it came later. You really started to figure out Blues Brothers. That movie turned so. I think that movie may have influenced as many up and coming blues musicians as like Stevie Ray Vaughan in the 80s.
You know what I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
I hear a lot of people.
I didn't know the difference between soul and blues. I could hear the gospel thing that James Brown did on that, and but I didn't really separate a lot of that music in my mind. It was all kind of just good. So I got it. While I tend to just play mostly blues stuff, I listen to anything. I listen to almost everything. My wall's a bit of a tribute to some of the randomness that, I got a Cobra movie poster. I've got Tommy Castro and Rob Zombie above that and T-Bone Walker next to him. So, yeah, it's that album was kind of like a great introduction to everything, in that soul roots blues kind of thing. I really love it. And the extended version of the movie is awesome because you see more playing of John Lee Hooker in the streets, playing just in Chicago, wherever that shop was set up in. And yeah, there was just lots of good moments that were taken out of the theatrical cut. And yeah, I've got the extended edition. I don't watch it as often these days, but every time it's on, I'm like, yeah, time just flies watching that. I love it. It's cool.
There's some guys out of Boston that come down for the Juke Joint Festival in Clarksdale. Normally every year that it happens, that they try. It's a long way from Boston to Mississippi, but they do a Blues Brothers tribute band. They dress up the whole 9 yards, briefcase, handcuff. Cool. In fact, at one point they owned 2 different Bluesmobiles
yeah, wow.
They would drive one from Boston to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and be parked on the street. And I played guitar for them, trying to do my best to cover all of that Murphy and Cropper stuff. That just
Cropper's great.
Oh yeah,
he's another guy that I don't think I know. Serious guitar players know he's great, but he's not a household name in terms of who you think of when you think of great guitar players. It's a bit of a shame. Yeah,
and every guitar player's done that sliding sixths thing.
Oh yeah, I overuse that all the time.
Oh, yeah. All the time, and it's in every player's repertoire if they're paying attention. And that's it. That's where it came from. All that stuff. It's a lot of people don't give it the credit that it's due. Mississippi, Clarksdale, like you said, John Lee Hooker. I mean, my hometown. And I could talk about Clarksdale in my hometown for just hours and hours about the blues greats that came out of there. Ike Turner's from there. I actually got to play with his son once at a jam. It was real cool. His son plays piano. Is based in Arkansas now. Killer piano player. John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters, Sam Cooke, Howlin' Wolf came through. Yeah, Mississippi Delta is a special, fertile, impoverished place, and that's part of what bred the art. I think that's
absolutely.
Yeah, so
very cool.
So you got into the blues, you got into Eric Clapton, you learned about that. So you start doing like many of us do. I'm sure you just started playing in bands. I know that there's a pretty significant blues scene in Australia. So by the time you get back there, how would you transition that into YouTube, which is to the layman, like that's a completely different ball game, video, audio. I know a lot of people watching this are like, no, they see what it is now. But
so if I take a snapshot of me at whatever age, whether it be 15 or whatever, I always liked doing sport. I always enjoyed listening to music, and I always liked filming things. So I've always had like a crappy VHS size, camera that, I got my hands on a secondhand one of those and filmed whatever I could, made some silly movies with friends, and, always just started filming stuff. And there was, at one point I ended up getting one that had like an SD card reader, which changed the game because I could just plug the card back into the computer or the camera into it, and then I could just get the files. I didn't have to then capture all the digital videotape onto the computer, which was all in real time, and then edit it. And back then in early 2000s, none of that software was any good. I had a piece of software called Pinnacle or something, and it used to crash, and I paid for it. It was garbage. It was just horrible. So when I guess my earliest videos, I actually posted clips of what we were doing in Michigan and what we were doing on other trips that I had away and all that kind of stuff. So it was a mix of like band footage. Originally, it was just things that I did for fun outside of, it wasn't a guitar channel primarily, it was just somewhere to host videos. I just wanted to find somewhere that I could host videos because I always thought, maybe I'll put a website together or a blog or something like that. So when I got into YouTube, I didn't really know it was going to be where it is today, like in terms of its size or scale. I had no intention of that ever being like what I do or part of what I do, for my living. I just didn't ever envision that. I always enjoyed doing that kind of like filming and, as I said, the music. But when I got back, I just sort of practiced for, I guess, a good while. I went through instructional videos. I got into lots of artists through watching live videos of, say, Clapton played with Robert Cray. I'd get into that, and Robert Cray would play with John Hyatt. I'd get into him, and I'd be listening to Buddy Guy, and I just went through all the guys that everybody knows. Santana, just listened to a lot of different things, and I guess I tried to mimic a lot of the stuff that I was hearing to some extent, and then you end up sort of changing the vibe of it as well. But some of my big influences in that time were also like non-guitar players. I always loved Dr. John, like one of my favorite artists of all time. And when I saw him, it was like the best thing ever. So yeah, I took a kind of weird, I guess all this music made an impression on me in some way, and whatever came out of it was the junk I'm playing now. But yeah, with the YouTube thing, I remember it was around 2000, mid to 2006 or 7.
So
for the
early,
first,
that's real.
yeah,
early
for the
YouTube.
first 4 or 5 years on the channel, I bought everything that you saw on the channel at that time, right? So it was like, oh, I want to hear how this cheap Behringer pedal sounds. No one had a video. There wasn't a single video online about any of this guitar stuff. There was some videos about guitar products, but there was very little. There was no videos on certain stuff. So I was like, oh, well, I might as well upload a quick 5-minute video. I remember it had like 1,000 views in a day. I thought, what? Why is anyone watching this?
Yeah.
Like I didn't get that would have an audience. So obviously people were looking for the same stuff I was looking for. And then I guess over time I started uploading band clips less. But I still post live clips of when I go jamming or whatever. But I could see that there was an audience for that, and it was just simply because up until 2010, I didn't get the partner program till 2010, because back then you couldn't just get it at 1,000 subscribers. You had to wait until you were offered it. So I had about 10,000 subscribers by then, and I don't know, maybe 3 million views or something. And then I got that email. I was like, all right, I'll sign up. And it was like $3 a day or something. Like it was nothing, but it was better than nothing. I was like, I could pay for some strings with this. And I remember just getting really, I'm a pretty driven person. I know I seem maybe laid back to the untrained eye, but I really work hard at the stuff I do. And I put in a lot of time to try to always improve in areas, whatever it is I'm doing. And I literally hated my job. I was sick of doing the day job. I'm like, how do I make this happen? So I've literally reviewed as much stuff as I could borrow from any number of different shops. And by that time, about 2011 or so, I'm just guessing, I started getting offers to review stuff from shops. They'd send stuff out, and I was like, all right, cool. I'll do a video of this. And yeah, so that's how that sort of started. It just kept growing, and I ended up, it's a hard thing to give you an exact time and date when I thought, oh, this is what I want to do. But I knew early on, it's like all my skill sets. I wasn't good at talking to the camera, and I can't watch my old videos, and now I'm way more like myself. It takes confidence. And I was like, everyone used to say, oh, we can't understand you. Can you speak slower? So I'd really sort of slow it down, and I wasn't talking like myself whatsoever. So yeah, it was a point in time where I was working my day job for 3 years, 40-hour weeks, 1-hour commute either way, came home, and I worked till midnight every day for almost 3 years. I had more caffeine than any human could possibly have in that time, but that's what got me out of it. And I was lucky enough at that time, I didn't have any really big living expenses or anything, and I just made it through each year for about 4 years. But now things are finally going good. And it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, you guys are living it up. It's like, no, I was on rice and beans for a long time. And there were other options that I could have. I never wanted to turn it into a job where I was obliged to do everything. That's not fun either. So I really wanted freedom and flexibility. And over the last 2 years, I've really been able to kind of set up other things outside of YouTube that help me with that. And I'm pretty much free to do whatever I like on the channel. And I've also got other YouTube channels I contribute to now. But that's kind of like the long-winded formula. I just persisted. I persisted. Every time someone says, "Oh, how can I do this or that?" It's like it takes a lot of work unless you get lucky and you get trending videos like that dude who made the. It's not lucky. Nothing's lucky, but sometimes you do something unique and different where everyone's interested. Like the guy that makes the guitars out of fiberglass or or whatever he's making them out of. The colored pencils. It's something completely different, and he killed it. So it really either takes something like that, or you've just got to just stay the course, do what you do, try to be true to what you want, your vision, and just do it. And I was guilty of doing more stuff just to get my name out there or the channel name out there. I was just like, I'll borrow anything I can off friends just to make another video at one point. But then it got to a point where I'm like, all right, the best strategy now is not to just spam out videos. It's like, let's think a little bit more about this. And it's this weird sort of process doing YouTube. But it's kind of like all my skills. I'm an ex-IT guy as well, so I got that in the back of my mind. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny, you tick a lot of the boxes that I hear from a lot of YouTubers and a lot of other people that have either tried to do this or, been somewhere in the mix, is that I relate it to being a musician just in general. Some people think that now I've never been a famous world touring musician, so I can only speak to what I've seen from people I know who are touring musicians nationally, internationally, and it's hard work. There aren't days off. It isn't, you play, you work, I don't know, you play 15 2-hour shows a month and you're rolling in money. No, you're not. You don't see the time on the road. They don't see the junk food and the bad hotel rooms. They don't see the long phone calls with club owners. They don't see the endless email trails that lead to no gigs, or fighting for your money at the end of the night, trying to get paid. They don't see that with YouTube. They just see, oh, well, this person's got a video that's been viewed 150,000 times, and it's like, yeah, but they've been on YouTube for 9 years and they put out a video for 9 years.
I've tried to help a lot of, sorry to cut you off. I've tried to help a lot of small, I get so many people coming up to me on Instagram or messaging or emailing, whatever. And they always ask, oh, how can I grow my channel and all that kind of stuff. I always say the first thing you've got to do is you've got to start strong. The quality has to be good. And that's kind of like people, there almost seems to be animosity against channels that have put in the hard time. I see that not so much on my channel, but I see other people criticize larger channels. I can't grow because X, Y, and Z's already big. It's like, no, you've got to, that's the exact wrong mentality. You're not doing well because the quality is bad. You're not doing anything that hasn't been done a million times. You're not voicing any opinion that's experienced. There's other factors involved in that, as well as like just having some sort of on-screen presence. And I suck on camera, but I speak with conviction and I know what I'm talking about. It's one thing, like people are like, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, I have no idea. It's such like useless information. I wish I knew like astrophysics as well as I knew guitar gear sometimes. I'm like, what have I spent my life doing? But because of that, it sort of helps. I love gear. I love playing with toys, the guitars, and I'm just fortunate to have owned 40 amps that I paid for. I bought and sold looking for tone, and this all contributed to something that is the end, well, the middle of the end result here. So that might sound conceited, but it's just like, it's fact. I'm not starting from zero. I've had a big, great, huge catalog of videos, and that's what you need to put in. Unless you've got, you've got your Peter McKinnon or a Gerald Undone who can just, in the tech world or whatever, they have all the qualities, great charisma, they speak well, they know their stuff, they're coming out of nowhere and just blowing everybody away. Unless you've got that, it's pretty tough in the guitar niche. You have to either have a specialty, which, like if I look at Phillip McKnight, he's great at setups. We've all got our strengths and weaknesses when it comes to playing and our technical knowledge. His strength is clearly how he explains things, how he can fix things, how he shows people the inner workings of all that kind of stuff. And that's not my strength, right? I don't think about guitars so much on like a a technical level. I want to play it. I want to know how it sounds. I don't care if the fretboard is a millimeter thinner than another guitar. I couldn't care less. It's like, put it in my hands and let's see what it can do. And that I'm trying to focus more on that side of this kind of thing now.
You don't want to fight over nickel or stainless steel frets or 7.25
no, just whatever works, man. Yeah. Look, there's some things, and I'm not saying Phillip does that either, right? Like I'm just saying as a point of comparison, like each channel's got their own strength, and people who appreciate the finer details on a guitar will love his channel because of that. People who just want to know how something sounds maybe or whatever will go to any number of different channels where it's more playing centric, I guess I'm trying to say. So yeah, I love the fact each channel has its own spot. And if a new channel's coming in and they're doing the same old pedal videos that were done 15 years ago, whatever it is, 10 years ago, it's like, how are you going to get found? As I started my tech channel, I was trying to fight up against other channels that already had all the camera equipment that I owned already reviewed. I was like, how can I angle this? So you got to come at it with a different perspective. So yeah, it's definitely tough if you're starting, but if you're going to start, you have to start strong, and you'll get better over time. But if you're not, I see this is one of my biggest criticisms and gripes, and it's just from my own perspective. Any of the super chats I get, it goes back into like camera equipment, audio, lighting. You can always constantly, hopefully, see some sort of upgrade on the channel. Some of these guys they shoot with their phone, and they never upgrade anything. And it's like, come on, man, you got to try to get the results. You really got to make an effort. Just buy a lamp, just get anything.
Just do something.
They're complaining they're not growing, and it's because like your video, you can't hear and see anything. Like, just do something.
So this is sort of like, I'm just going to relate it to my personal experience with this podcast. I bought gear. I bought a Rodecaster. I bought good microphones. I had decent microphones already, but I bought, the right microphones. I wanted the right sound, get it to as good a quality as I possibly could. And as of this video, when it goes live, this will be my third video on my channel. All of 3, 2 podcasts and 1 fuzz pedal demo that I did just to try it, just to get it together. Because the demo wasn't the thing I wanted to do. I like doing demos. It was kind of fun. But I did it to learn the workflow of it.
Yeah,
but
it's not fun, huh?
No, it was okay. I kept it real simple. It's like 7 minutes. It's perfect. It's great.
That's perfect.
But it's like I look over at my pedal shelf, right? Like YouTube doesn't need another King of Tone demo.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I don't need to break out a tube screamer and do another demo of a tube screamer. So it definitely makes sense. But like, I didn't have video gear. I have a couple of cameras that are like older. They're not great. I have nothing that shoots in 4K. This camera that I'm using right now, actually, and I'm learning. This is me peeling back the veil for everybody. Camera's here. My screen is over here. I'm really working hard to look.
Oh,
right
wow.
Yeah. So it's a complicated thing. I bought a capture card. I'm feeding an actual video camera, so I'm not using my laptop camera, which is not great. My phone camera is pretty good, but I had no way to monitor the screen. And it's like, those little things you want to improve. I decided I wanted to take the podcast to YouTube because, come on, second largest search engine on the planet. You want to be on it, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to start feeding into it. I'm going to start working to get better. I mean, you look at some of the early videos that were on YouTube, someone like Gearman Dude, I don't know. The whole one word, but his early stuff, you could tell, was just a phone and like him pointing at the stuff as he's playing.
I didn't even know if it was a phone because back then it probably wasn't. I mean, him and I think we both started around the same time, and I think I may have still have had my DV tape, which was a digital video tape. What do you call it? Video camera, basically, like a little small one. But then right around then, I ended up changing the one with an SD card. And I'm pretty sure, like, none of us were doing, like, miking up amps or anything. Like, we didn't think that was a thing. The guy that changed all of this was Andy Martin from Pro Guitar Shop. And I was lucky enough to meet him a few years back, and I thanked him. I was like, mate, you were like the biggest influence on me getting my act together with isolated audio, and I don't have his voice and charisma and personality or whatever.
Or his clean tone, his bypass tone.
He's the best at what he does, man. There's not anybody that doesn't like Andy. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, and I watched him for over a decade before I realized he doesn't use a pick, and it just it's crazy. So yeah,
same
those guys
here. Like
you get better.
When I met him, it was like we both looked at each other. We're like, "Hey, man!" Like we just got chatting, and it was funny because we're all aware of each other. The OGs of YouTube, like there was guys like Tone King who's been around for a long time. I think him and I, as well as Gearman Dude and a number of other guys, all started pretty I would say almost within a 6-month period, but none of us were getting anything out of it other than just posting videos. It was just fun. Like that's how it was. But eventually, when you leave your job, you're like, all right, how do I cover my costs?
Yeah. When you start diversifying, you're like, okay, I've got to do a little of this, little of that, little of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wild world. So we transition into now with YouTube, and it's this massive market. It's this massive engine. And you talk about people are like, oh, well, my channel's not growing because there's this other person over here doing this. Second largest search engine on the planet. There's enough market for twice as many people on YouTube as there are right now.
Yeah. Sorry, from a technical perspective, none of them, the people that complain, never follow the basic principles of how to get found. None of them. And then they're always got the same stupid, like description in each one of their videos. It has it's not going to get found. Like who's going to find it with those search terms?
SEO, they don't understand.
They just don't get it. Yeah. And even if I've explained this to people, so I'm not just criticizing people that I don't know because that's the people I've never dealt with, but I've spoken to probably 20 YouTube channels about this. It's like, if you want to get found, camera channels, I've spoken to people in guitar and sort of mentored 4 or 5 channels over the years. And I'm like, you can't get found with no description, no title. Who's going to punch this in? It's such a random, it's just basic things to help you get found. You're helping yourself, basically. And I encourage anyone who's thinking about getting into YouTube to really go through the best practices. There's plenty of videos about that, and it works. It absolutely works. I've built up a channel of nearly 20,000 subs in 2 years, and outside of guitar. And that's not a bad effort for very few videos a month. But if you do it right, you'll get results. You've really got to start strong because people are used to quality now. If you just fire up a phone, that might work if you're outdoors doing like a vlogging channel or something, if the lighting's good and the camera's stable. But if you're doing anything that requires audio quality or video quality, imagine a camera channel and they've got it using their phone and there's no lighting. No one's going to take them seriously, right? No. And I get emails from people going,
channel where the audio is bad.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's like a guitar channel where the audio is bad.
This is exactly the thing. I see the same channels complaining about it and they don't even mic up an amp. It's like, spend some of that $100 you got on your super chat and buy a microphone.
Yeah.
Like just reinvest it into yourself. It's going to work. It's going to help. But the problem is, if you don't do that or there's no change over time, you're known as the channel to avoid because you don't do the right thing. You don't mic up your amp or have some other recording option that sounds better. You get this like weird sort of, you get labeled as just, I don't want to watch that guy's video. It'll sound like crap. So they don't see that big picture of it. And you can push as hard as you like, but once you get branded like that, it's pretty hard to get away from it. I see that in the tech niche as well, which there's some channels you see a review and you're like, nah, next.
And that blows my mind too. You're going to be in the tech world. And I really techie. I like gear. I love computer gear. I used to be way more into it. It's one of those things you fall out of for a year or two, you're way behind. Mm-hmm. You're out. But I just didn't get caught up, and that's fine. But I'll occasionally try to dial back in, and I'll watch these channels, and I'm like, "You're supposed to be the tech channel. Why is your tech so bad for your channel? Yeah. No, why can't you get this worked out?" It's like you remember, phones are better now. I'm gonna give phones and phone cameras and phone microphones their due. They're much better now.
Oh, they can be great if the lighting is good.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I'm terrible at lighting. You see, I've got lamps. That's just what I do. And just this
No,
does
your audio and video is fine, mate. Don't worry.
yeah, this camera does a lot better than my phone or my laptop camera does. And it's HD, 4K,
Cool.
it's an old Panasonic. It does great. I feed the HDMI out. But neither here nor there. Remember in the old days, like people would post concert footage that they recorded and it was just blowing the microphone out on their phone because of volume.
No limiters, yeah.
Yeah, and it's those kinds of things. It's the point was, and I get really distracted. I'm going around about, is that you would click on one of those videos, or maybe it came up on Facebook, and you would hear that first crackle of the speaker giving it, and it's like mute. Same thing when your audio is bad, or your video is bad, or the camera is shaky, or just there's that yellow tint, sort of like on my video right now, but there's that yellow tint over it because the lighting is so just awful.
Yeah.
The same thing on YouTube. I'm not going to watch that video, most likely.
The audio is actually more important than the video, unless you're a video-centric channel where you might be displaying a camera, where both are important. But you can get away with a video that sounds... the video can look amazing, and if the audio is terrible, you're not going to sit through it. Yeah. If the wind's blowing out the mic or whatever, it's unwatchable, it's unusable. And yeah, so I always think audio first, video secondary, with that exception of some niche.
Yeah, there's content, certain areas. It's actually this is only my second podcast I put into a video format, and part of the thing that pushed me to the video format, one was I wanted to get onto YouTube and get that search engine optimization and all those kinds of things. And I don't, there's no bones about that. That's what it is. If anybody tells you that's not why they want to be on there, that's part of it. It always is. But the other is my podcast before I was just using a phone. I was calling, Bluetoothing into the Rodecaster, and it was such a crapshoot for the quality of the audio. And it didn't matter who I was calling, where they were. It just could be that time of day. The cell network was overloaded and the quality was bad. So I discovered that using StreamYard, or I almost used Zoom at one point. I was debating back and forth. The audio is better. It's just much better.
Yeah, IP audio is heaps better. If you're going to do a call in, see if you can get someone on WhatsApp or something like that, where the audio's like got so much more fidelity. It's not even close. Or even FaceTime or whatever.
At this point, though, with video, I'm probably just going to do it this way from now on because it just makes more sense. But talking about people that want to do it the right way, so we've got to bring this up because this is not long after your video that got some people angry. Got most people.
Let's frame that firstly. It got 98 or 99% upvotes, and nearly every major YouTube channel. And I had a lot of emails from companies as well that reached out and said, "Great video." So it wasn't overwhelmingly negative.
No, that's good.
I'll talk a bit more about that in a sec. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. No, it's well, it's one of those things that you brought up a topic, brought up something that was happening that needed to be mentioned. I think it was
shocking.
I think it was a great video.
Thanks.
And it actually, it's really funny. My demo video, I recorded after watching your video, and I mentioned at the very beginning of my video, no one sent me the pedal. I did it on a Brenya Effects fuzz, one knob fuzz. I said no one sent me this except to send it to me after I paid my money because
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just like everything in life, the angry and the negative folks always are the loudest. They're always the loudest. You hear from people who are unhappy about things so much more than you hear. So it's like 98, 99% upvote. Yeah, that 1% is going to be loud. So it's been interesting to watch reaction in sort of the community a little bit.
There was clearly a lot of people that don't understand the issue and that we were in the best interest of the audience. Now, the argument from the people who know everything say, I'll make up my own mind irrespective of what I see on any channel. And that might be true, but that doesn't change the problem. It's such a huge problem in the guitar niche where anyone who sent something needs to disclose that to their audience. And I'm on the same email chains that a lot of the big YouTube channels are on, and I know they're getting the same, or I don't even say yes to a lot of the stuff because I borrow it from the shop now, but they get a lot of those items in on their channel, and the assumption is that they've paid for it. Or a month later, when everyone forgets that the big videos all dropped at the same time, if someone goes back and they search for that amplifier, they're going to assume that this guy or girl bought the amplifier, right?
Yeah.
And they're watching a paid commercial. These guys are paid up to a lot of money. I work differently. I don't need to, but a lot of these guys are paid to make a commercial for a company. And whether or not they think they're giving an honest review is beside the point if they're not honest and upfront with their audience. Now, there's a couple of reasons why this is important. From someone who's been making content, I know how much my videos have influenced other people to buy things. I get messages every single day saying, hey, thanks for the heads up on this. What should I buy, that or this? And I always, ever since I knew it was a thing, and this just isn't about me, but just as in perspective, anytime I'm sent something, I always thank the shop in some sort of disclosure. Hey, thanks to whoever sent it out for the review or the company, if it's a pedal review. And that frames it for your audience. If people are under the assumption that some big channels are saying, a lot of wonderful things about something, but not disclosing that they got it for free, drastically changes your opinion if you trust them as a source. Yep. Now, a lot of people can trust their own instincts on what they like, and I do that with a lot of things. I'm like, this is the best thing for me based on what I know. But there's so many people that aren't like that. They're not as savvy when it comes to this. Like, we're legally supposed to, right? On YouTube, right. Terms of service, you lose your channel. This is the other thing too. People are going to lose their livelihoods if they ever do a sweep like they did with other industries on YouTube. So there's just this huge problem, and I was hoping the video would reverse people's mentality on those that disclose are often seen as the people who are the gear, whores or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what nicer way of saying that, right? Or gear sluts or whatever the term is. I don't know. Sorry for the language, but
chills.
Yeah. Whereas no, we're doing the right thing. It's the people that aren't telling you they got the same thing for free that are doing the wrong thing, right? And we're still ridiculed. And this is the only niche that I know of on the platform. Maybe the old school guitar player mentality where people who say, hey, I got this for free, but I'm not being paid to promote it or whatever, and here it is. Or if you're being paid, I couldn't care less. It's just about that openness to say it and to also have the audience see that as a good thing and not as a bad thing. That was the intention of the video. There's no reason why any of these channels, whether they're making demos or reviews, shouldn't be disclosing this to their audience, both legally and ethically. And man, some of the emails I got from some of the channels were hilarious. They're like, oh, I'll do an honest review, even though I don't tell anyone, I get free stuff. It's like, that's the wrong premise already. Like, you're starting off with, you're lying to your audience about getting, and he could make I don't think people are bad either, right? Like, I don't think people are going out of their way to mislead their audience because that's how they've built up that trust. But they also need to realize that it's still not the right thing to be doing ethically. And it just, if these guys are making paid commercials for a company, they need to, at the very minimum, click that paid promotion tab because it's paid promotion. And if you disclose it any other way in the video, if you put a slide up like Phillip McKnight does, or what I do, I put up a pedal provided by, or whatever the thing is, right? But I'm supposed to do that, and it's in the audience best interest. And after you get a catalog of stuff, people like a catalog of videos, I'm always thinking to myself, would I replace this if it was stolen? Would I buy one? I'm always thinking about that, not just like, oh, another piece of free gear. Like, it's very different. I don't get that much free stuff on the channel anyway. Like, it's not really about me. It's not really about the other channels that were in the video. We all hear and see the same frustration from the audience mentality of people who review gear only in the guitar niche. This has not happened once on my tech channel. That you get, oh, you're just a paid whatever. I'm like, man, I'm not even getting paid from the company other than being able to hold on to an effects pedal. I could charge him $500. I choose not to. I don't want to turn it into that sort of job. So people are very misinformed with the whole idea is to shift the mentality around so people making the videos aren't criticized for getting free stuff. They should be almost more, and I couldn't care less if this is for me or not, but it's a good thing for the audience to know that. And you're it's sort of like praising the wrong approach, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Priorities are misaligned a little bit.
Yeah, it's just the way that it is. If I get something for free and I disclose that to you, or to the audience, I should say, then that should be seen as a good thing, so you can then frame your opinions based on that. Again, not everyone's as internet savvy as the next person, and I absolutely, like, after doing this for so long and seeing how big of an influence I have when I make a video and how many people buy that, if I can see through analytics, or if I speak to a business about it and they, hey, we sold 5 of these in the first hour. Like, I see it from a very different position as from the audience perspective. And if these people are promoting anything and getting paid to do so, it's a commercial. It needs to, if they're not saying anything, right? It's like pretty much a commercial. Reviews, demos, it doesn't matter. It all comes down to being at least a little transparent with the audience in any capacity. Just put a piece of text up that says item provided by whoever. If you know, and that's it. And then people can get used to it in a way, and then not criticize anybody for having gear, you know, on their channel or showcasing it. I think the mentality just needs to shift, and that was the whole idea of that video. And clearly not a lot of people sort of, well, when I say not a lot, the reason I turned comments off on that video was basically because the first 2 days it was overwhelmingly positive, and then all I saw coming up on the third day was people calling out channels, and a lot of them were doing the right thing, and one of them was even in the video. It's like, man, you guys are stupid. Like, what? You're calling out a guy who's in the video who discloses every single thing he gets sent. Like, this witch hunt thing wasn't good, and I didn't want channels getting affected by that either. But overall, like, even now, like, just looking at the thumbs up and down and all that kind of stuff, I can tell the message got out there. And I even heard from a few companies recently via email, and they sort of thanked me for doing that because they know that this is supposed to happen. And it's not just me policing things. I couldn't care less. If a guy wants to lose his channel, he can lose his channel. It doesn't, I couldn't care less. But,
you know, even beyond the right thing to do, it's one of those things that when I started talking to YouTubers and started talking to, you know, I'm getting ready to, when I made the decision to start putting things on YouTube, which was a big deal for me. I don't like cameras. I don't like talking to cameras. I liked the anonymity of just a podcast, just an audio podcast. I don't have to worry about, I can do this in my pajamas with my hair a mess and nothing matters. But no, YouTube, you got to pay attention to those kinds of things.
Well, your camera's from here up, so it's no pants.
Well, I am wearing pants, but I could have definitely been in pajamas. That would have been great. But the number one thing after quality that everybody talks about, you know, you got to have good sound, you got to have good video, but the next best thing is just honesty and genuineness. And you know what, if you're gonna do the one more Tube Screamer demo, or one more person demoing a deluxe reverb, that there's a you know, everybody's heard this. If you're going to do that, at least be real, be you, be who you are. I get on YouTube, I get on my podcast. I'm me. I'm goofy. I'm a little weird. I'm a little forgetful. I'm a little spacey brain. That's just who I am, though. I'm not here trying to act like, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm not Oprah quality of material. I say Oprah because she's in the news lately because Royals are going crazy. I actually have no idea why everybody's so crazy. I need to get caught up on popular news. I didn't know. But you got to be honest, and this is part of being honest and transparent. And you know, you want you talked about, you don't want to have to demo everything. You want to be able to choose what you demo. Like the hopefully the assumption is that if you're demoing it, you either like it or you think there are other people who might like it. You're not demoing just because you got paid to do it. So just go ahead and be honest and say, hey, you know, so-and-so sent me this. Here's my honest review of it. Just to talk about, and you had a couple of these in your video, like Henning Pauly is kind of renowned for, you know, he'll tell you somebody sent him this and then he'll crap on it. Okay, that's a little extreme. He won't, but you know, he'll be really real. He's really raw about it. He doesn't pull punches on anything. Doesn't care what his relationship with that company is, and yet we'll keep sending him stuff because he's honest. Even Ryan Burke, who in your video from 60 Cycle Hum talked about, he doesn't like doing a blanket statement on his videos. He likes being able to click the box. But I saw on Facebook recently, he's like, but you know what? Since then, He's kind of rethought it. I think he's got a blank statement he's
it's
adding.
Strange that was even a thing. I mean, like my perspective on it is anything verbal, on screen, burnt in, whatever, is some sort of disclaimer. My only issue is when channels are getting the same free stuff other channels that disclose are, those who disclose seem to be seen as the, like I mentioned before, it's like frowned upon, right? Where, and yeah, just any disclosure is good, and it's not hard to do. Like for many years, if you go back as far as I can remember when it was a thing, I've always thanked a company for sending something out. You don't even get that. That's verbal. That's sometimes just enough to know, okay, so this guy didn't buy it, but at least, in my opinion, it's great. Now I know exactly what I'm watching.
Yeah, exactly.
And demos are the same. I couldn't care if someone doesn't give their opinion. It just comes down to they're obliged to let you know if they're getting paid to make the video. And sometimes it's blatantly obvious, right? There's guys that have been around for a long time who do great demos or review videos, but they're still supposed to do it. And you know what? It's actually made a positive change. I know there'll be a lot of YouTube channels that probably won't speak to me because of that or speak to the other YouTubers. I don't care. I had one guy threaten me. He goes, "Oh, you should probably shut up about this or something." I said, "Mate, good luck with that. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about me. I just do my thing." So
yeah.
I figured, look, if the channel is ever going to do something that helps create a bit of change, I need to have other voices on. If I had done that video on my own, it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah.
And to the credit of everyone else in that video, no one saw the end result until it went live. I didn't know what I was going to be sent. I said, "Can you film 2 or 3 minutes on this topic?" And I'm sure some of them went, "Oh, like, wow, this is a bit more full on than I realized," probably when they sent their part in. But I want to frame it by using the tech guy, as Gerald Undone, because he's a master at what he does, and he explains everything, and he puts it out there, and no one complains. It's like, why can't that be the same for the guitar niche? So yeah, it is what it is. It's frustrating, but I think it's made great change. There's channels that never did any of this that have gone through their back catalog and
I've seen
most
that.
recent videos. And that's all I needed to do. It's an easy fix. It's not like we're saying, "Oh, you're untrustworthy." It's just get on the same page, make everyone aware that this is the right thing to do as a group, and then it'll be for the better of the community as a whole. It really will. Big or small, it doesn't matter. But the big channels have got the responsibility.
And when you record, like when you're recording the demo, it takes you less than 5 seconds to mention that, "Hey, they sent me this," or like I think I watch Rhett Shull's videos, and I think he does a fantastic job of explaining, "Hey, just throwing this out here. These guys sent me this to check out. Here's what I think of it." It's done. And I don't think anyone sees him as disingenuous. I don't think anyone sees him as just some, paid. I almost thought of
but there are people who would still see that as that, right? Irrespective of their charisma and all that kind of stuff. So that's the mentality we're trying to shift. If you get it, most of the big channels on the same page to say, "Hey, it's a good thing to disclose to your audience legally and ethically because we're supposed to," the normality is going to shift. And people, I would appreciate seeing a video in any niche where if they've been sent something, even if they've got good things to say about it, then it comes down to their back catalog and history. Like, it is what it is. Not everything's great, but if you can frame it in context to something else and you trust someone's opinion on something, then it doesn't matter if they got it for free. That's kind of like my thinking with it. It shouldn't matter if you're putting something out there and you've got a good history or you've got a good back catalog of stuff people can trust. So yeah, I think a lot of people just assumed they already knew that a lot of people were getting free stuff, and they were complaining that, "Oh, we shouldn't interfere. We should just let everybody do their thing," which they're free to do. I couldn't care less if they don't follow the rules, but to see it already have some impact on the creators has been great. I know it's frustrating for some of them. I got some messages saying, "Oh, I'm going to have to up for the next few months. I'm going to have to change my intros." I'm like, you know what? Just do it. Click the box. There's a box you can click on every video. Problem solved. If you don't disclaim it any other way, just do that. No one's going to look down on it.
and I like
that's
this
the thing. Lastly,
I was
just going to say, I went through even though I've been verbally disclosing my videos for years, now since I introduced that checkbox, it means if you got anything for free to make the video, that's compensation. I'm supposed to tick that box. I did it. I verbally disclosed it or put it on screen in my own way, but I went through all my back catalog, even the ones where I've disclosed. So I was like, it's not hard to do. It's just time consuming.
Yeah. And that had to be really time consuming because you've got a
It took me
lot of
5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The funny thing is, there's all these technicalities, people asking, oh, so if you get something for free and then you showcase it in another video, do you need to click that box again? The answer is no, because if I buy an amp off you, right, or whatever the case is, you're being paid, then that's mine. So I look at it like that. It's a transaction. The first thing, like when Fender sent me their Tone Master Twin amp out, the first video, I said I'd shoot a video for them because they asked for one. I said, no problems. Didn't charge them for my time or anything. They sent me the amp. That's payment because it's like $1,200, $1,500 amp or whatever it costs, $2,000 in Australia at least. Anyway, and then it's mine. That's that transaction done. So I own that now. You can look at that and you can argue about it in it. Not you personally, but just people can argue that that's.
I don't know. Might argue
paid promotion, but it isn't because it's now not featured in its own video. It's just part of other stuff. So that's
it's
mine.
It's yours because you made that payment that was required for that. It's something you actually. That's probably a better ringing endorsement than even the original. Is the fact that you're still using it after you've already met your obligation.
And that's hit it on the head, mate. That's exactly the part of the problem. Those things you see once and never see again.
Exactly. It was like that guy, or and you see it every now and again. You're if you're in enough Facebook groups, or you got your ear to the ground enough to the YouTube and everything, YouTube community and everything that's going on. You see occasionally the whispers of a little while back. I remember seeing I obviously I'm not going to name the channel because I can't even remember which channel it was. But they had a reverb store, and suddenly all the pedals that they had demoed in the last like 3 months were on their reverb store. In fact, I think one of them hit their reverb store before it hit the market, and that was one of the things that tipped them off. Like it really ticked off the company in question. And it was a big to do there for a minute. But yeah, you'll see things like that. Now I'm not saying that, YouTubers should never sell the things that they've been given or done the videos for, but it's when you see them hold on to it and it means a little something.
Like the things that I've held on to have stood the test of time. Like, and look, to be as blatantly truthful, I can't keep everything I've been sent over the years, right? Back. Being that I could charge, as I said, I could charge whatever I like for a video given the channel, maybe not whatever I like, but I could charge a few $100, $500.
What you mean? You don't get $10,000 per demo?
Yeah, I wish. So part of my strategy is anything I don't plan on keeping, the guys that support the channel through Patreon get it at far less than half price. So I get move things that way, and that helps cover my expenses. It's part of how I keep the channel rolling forward, because there's nothing worse than hoarding guitar gear. It takes up pedals, maybe not so much, but guitars and stuff, they just take up a lot of space. And funnily enough, I was sent 2 guitars last week. I actually sent them back. I did my videos and I said, they've let me keep these. And I was like, I'm not going to use these ever again. So I'm going to update the description saying, hey, basically because I need to get hard cases for them. They came in boxes and I'm like, I just don't have space for all this stuff. Like, where am I going to put these things? They're going to live under the bed for 3 years. So yeah, it's sort of like moving things on is really a good way to cover your costs if you're not taking a cash payment from things. Right. So I don't have too much of a problem with that, but if something's being sold before it's released, then that's not a ringing endorsement.
There were some other things going on that I'm not fully privy to, because obviously 3 videos in, I'm an outsider looking in here. But yeah, there was some other stuff going on. It was a wild thing. So you see these little things, but by and large, the community of gear demoers and guitar, just the community on YouTube, they got it. Most of them got it. But it's funny to see the people who are upset by it, and I'm like, this is not the thing. This is not the hill to die on.
Yeah, people, as I said earlier, I think people like to rage about anything.
Yeah.
The comment section has given everybody a voice, and whether they understand the issue or not, they're going to get angry. And I see far less angry comments than I would see positive ones overall. There's people that don't like my playing or whatever. I couldn't care less. But it's the personal attacks based on lack of information that is the problem sometimes. But yeah, it is what it is. It's just part of
that
what
was
we
something
do.
I meant to ask you about. So, and we won't go too much longer because I know we're getting.
Oh, you're right, man. Yeah, it's all good.
But so there's this stigma. In fact, it's gonna be a funny thing here. There's a stigma about demos and blues playing on YouTube, and they're like, people are tired of hearing blues licks to demonstrate gear. And here you have a channel called In the Blues. You're very much like don't care. In fact, I almost at one point was thinking about just like a couple of years ago when I was thinking about trying a demo channel for the first time, and even now I'm not sure I'm going to continue the demos thing. This may just be the podcast. We'll see. But I really thought about it. Thought about calling it just like Dad Blues Licks or something.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a great name.
Just not because I love blues music. I love blues playing. It's influenced every form of music that we listen to today in some way, shape, or form. I don't care if you're tired of hearing it. I'm not. This is the way we're going to play.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. There is definitely some of that sort of stigma towards straight up blues licks over everything. But over the years, one of the things I've always tried to do is like not only extend the back. You look at a video I shoot now compared to even 3 years ago. The playing's tidier. There's more influences from like Chris Kane sort of jazzy blues licks, and there's other stuff in the playing that makes it different. But I wouldn't tell people to avoid playing what they enjoy. And the other reason why I only played blues for a long time is because there was no copyright strikes. I remember doing like a Hendrix, which is a Hendrix song, right? I got an actual strike on my channel. I lost all this functionality back then for 6 months. So I was like, I'm not even going anywhere near this stuff. And my other friend, Dr. Rick, who's on the channel, he played a Queen song and it was instantly striked.
Yeah.
Like he played the solo out of it without a backing track or anything. And it was instantly some sort of weird terminology like alternate arrangement or something like that of whatever song he was playing. And I'm like, I can't go near this stuff. So I'm either got my original songs I can jam to, or I've just got a kind of noodle. And I did that for a long time, but now the catalog of stuff I can kind of pull from is far larger. And I try every video now. I'm thinking, all right, what can I do that will kind of make like I got a 335 video coming up. Instead of playing blues, I put together this like weird U2-ish kind of sounding track. So yeah, it's all about kind of like blues is my passion, but yeah, you gotta diversify. And I think anyone who goes back will see the change, hopefully, or hear it.
Yeah.
And if I haven't improved, it sucks.
I just know that I really appreciated it, that it was like, you know what, don't care. And it's, I get it. Not everyone gets into the blues, and it's just one of those things. And and even I go through phases where I can't listen to it for a while. It's like, okay, I've got to go listen to something else. I've got to go.
Yeah, same.
I went on a Dr. Dre kick not too long ago where like I listened to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg for like 4 weeks. So, things happen. You got to listen to something else. But it's funny to watch the stigma and the people who are, I don't know, just people who want to rage against something. And it gets, I find it funny. I really appreciate guys like, to mention him again, I'm giving him too much to talk about it too much, but Ryan Burke is really funny about it because he loves trolls. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, he does. I never spoke to him before we did that video. So
oh, really?
Yeah. I'd watched his stuff. I think we emailed maybe back and forth once. This was like probably 5 years ago or something. But he's like, he just doesn't care. It's great.
He loves the trolls, and I don't have any because I've 3 videos. I'm sure I'll get some. Somebody's going to hate me. Feel free to leave nasty comments, guys. That means you're actually watching this far into the video. So go ahead.
I always give, if I'm to give any advice, it's 99% of the community is great. Yeah. And the 1% grows as the channel gets bigger. So one person in 100, you think, oh, that's not too bad. But once you get 100,000 subscribers, you got a lot more people that might come in and say, look, I couldn't care less. Again, I couldn't care less. People have commented on the fact I got a shaved head. They don't like my white spot on my beard, even though I'm missing pigment on my face. That whatever the case may be, I couldn't care about any of that stuff. But yeah, any sort of personal attacks against others or towards someone on the video, that's the stuff that I'll just remove quickly because
Yeah.
no one needs that. And it's funny because people will go, "How come you don't play any metal?" I'm like, "Look at the name of the channel, dude." And just put the crying emoticon, like the happy laughing one. It's like, man, come on, what were you expecting?
Yeah. Like,
so, it is what
out
it
of
is.
respect for you, I don't play any metal on the channel. This is like,
Yeah,
you don't
I got one riff, man, that White Zombie one. That's it. I never bothered to learn anymore.
I can rock out some power chords, and I can tap that one E minor 7 tapping lick, and that's about it. It's all you're getting from me. So, but I tell you what, it's been great talking to you. I'm really glad to actually meet you. As close to face as COVID and a couple of oceans.
Yeah.
But so I want to make sure we tell people where they can find you. For those that don't know, maybe some of the podcast listeners that aren't as big into YouTube. So you're on YouTube, In the Blues.
Yep. YouTube.com/intheblues.
All right. And you're on Instagram, which is how I got in touch with you.
Yep.
So I don't know if you do a Facebook community or anything like that.
No, I got off Facebook 3 years ago. I still have my page connected to an account I don't use, but I don't use Facebook.
I don't blame you. I really thought about getting rid of it. And
if you think, I'll just give you one last tip. If you think Facebook's going to help YouTube, it won't. So just stop adding to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's one of those things that I've been on Facebook almost since. So remember, it used to be you had to have a college email account to get onto Facebook.
That was before we got it then.
Yeah.
Must be 2007 or something.
Before it got to Australia, it used to be you had to have a college email address, and then they were slowly adding colleges. It wasn't just any college. You had to go to specific colleges. And I remember when my university finally was added to the list, and I joined in like 2005 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, so, okay. And it's one of those things where now it's so tied. It's so like it's cutting cord is hard, and I'm having a harder time record on it.
It took me 3 goes to get off it for good. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, well, I can contact everybody. I've got this magical device in my hand that has everybody's phone numbers.
Yeah.
And that I can text them or call them. Everyone's like, I can't leave because of the Messenger app. I'm like, you got a text messaging thing on your phone. Like, people will still reach out to you and contact you. I was like, man, I want to get out of that.
And don't quote me on it. I'm pretty sure now they've made it so that you can actually deactivate your Facebook and keep Messenger and still use it separately.
Okay, cool.
There's a separate Messenger app for Mac. I downloaded it a couple of weeks ago. I was like, interesting. I don't have to actually be on Facebook. Maybe because every time I open Facebook on my computer, it yells at me that it's using too much RAM. So that it's way too big and way too much. So it's better to get off of it. So you're on. I totally digressed there, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm a walking cliche. I'm on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, but no notifications are on. I have to manually check that. So it's In the Blues with an underscore at the end because someone else took the other one. But you'll just see quick updates and random life stuff on there. I don't really take that seriously at all. I just have it there for fun and whatever.
Well, awesome. So I'll put the links down in the description below, either on YouTube or on the podcast, so people will be able to click straight through. They need to check your stuff out for sure. You also have a Patreon where people can support you.
You don't have to plug that.
It'll be there anyway. So if they feel so inclined, they should. Do you have, besides your unfinished JJ Cale tribute album, do you have any music out there we need to plug? Anything?
I got a couple of albums on iTunes and stuff, but I'll plug this last one. You go to shanesband.com. It's an old website. I haven't updated for a long time, but there'll be links through from there. I'm tipping.
Okay, awesome. I will share that link so they can find that as well. Because I'm going to put this on a T-shirt at some point, but in my last few podcasts with different recording artists, I've talked about where people can find their music because streaming don't pay shit. Streaming, Because so I really encourage everyone to, if you really like an artist, go buy their physical media. For example, I don't buy CDs anymore. I just don't do it. I stream music just like everybody else on the planet. I don't feel bad about it. But if I really want to support an artist and they sell vinyl, I'm going to buy the vinyl. I'm just going to.
Great.
Because I'm a big believer in it. So wrapping up, Shane, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it was short notice getting us set up. Hopefully we'll get you on again sometime. I'm using the royal we again. It's become a thing.
That's all right.
Get you back on. We'll talk again sometime down the line. Hopefully when, a few dozen more people have actually watched my channel, and
we'll, right. I'll, as soon as it's ready to go, mate, I'll share it out on my feed for you, and hopefully that'll give you a little bit of traction. I'm not promising anything, but it'll hopefully help at least. So
no, I greatly appreciate it, and that's the thing that's been so great. Once I started the YouTube channel just a couple of weeks ago, is that people have been so willing, and so it's such a great community when you find the right people, and I've been really appreciative. It was the same in the podcasting community. I had a lot of people help me get started with the podcast, and now as I'm branching out, it's been really, really heartwarming to see that it's not, because I, just like everybody else, suffer from imposter syndrome big time. It's like I'm not really doing this. I'm the outsider, and and it's really easy to expect everyone to go, oh, no, room's full, get out of here. And everybody else they've been really, no, come on, let's go. Let's do this.
No, you're great at what you do, man. I think it'll do well over time. You just got to stick it out for a bit and get a few different folks on. And also, don't be scared. I was going to say, don't be scared to put up a couple of videos of your own without anybody. Maybe talking about some of the topics going on online or whatever, because that'll increase some traction, especially those, that once that video dropped, like 10 other channels posted their take on it, and they all got 10,000 views. And it wasn't all about views. I said to the guys when we did that video, I couldn't care if I lost subscribers by posting that video. I thought that's what was going to happen, but the opposite happened, and it is what it is. You just never know. But yeah, post some solo stuff too. Don't be scared.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. That's actually how the podcast started. It was originally just talking about things going on. My first episode was on the Guitar Center bankruptcy that was coming, and cool. That one's actually got a ton of downloads at this point. It's awesome. It's easily my most popular episode at this point. But it's grown faster than any others. But cool. I'm probably going to transition that to do some YouTube stuff on the same topic as I go. But I'll definitely circle back around. We'll talk and we'll stay in communications and hopefully get you back on. Listeners and viewers, you can find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, audio, obviously here on YouTube. For those of you listening to the podcast, if you search YouTube for 40 Watt Podcast, you will find us. As for other places online, we're on facebook.com/40 Watt Podcast. I just started a Facebook group. I don't know if I'm going to be serious about it. So if y'all start joining it, maybe I'll be serious about it, but it's me, my wife, and my one Patreon supporter. So, right now, cause I literally made it like 2 days ago and I still don't know if I want to do that. Cause it's just Facebook and too many groups. I know I need to get off it, but,
you don't have to listen to me, by the way.
No, it's a good point, and it's one I've been thinking. Instagram.com/40 Watt Podcast. You can email the podcast at 40wattpodcast@gmail.com. I'm telling y'all, there's a million ways to get in touch with me, y'all. You can also call and leave a voicemail if you want, and I will try to answer it. Maybe give me topic ideas, maybe questions for guests, although I don't exactly announce these guests in advance, so you never know who's going to answer your question. You can call that at 662-546-0615. And lastly, if you want to support the podcast, we do have a Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/40 Watt Podcast. There are various levels there. I'm working on getting some merch and swag for the higher levels of the Patreon. And because I don't do this full time, and this isn't how I make my living, I am donating 25% of all of my Patreon income to charities like St. Jude, Delta Blues Museum Arts and Education Program, and other programs like that, because it's how I want to give back to the community in different ways. So your support of the podcast helps me support those charities as well. So really appreciate y'all listening. And until next time, I'm going to finally stop talking. I want y'all to take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and try to make a little bit of noise.